So one thing about falsehoods is that they can be repeated over and over again and eventually believed, except for those who are paying very close attention. One of my audience members commented on my video where I talked about Gotham Knight's combat, and I still have the challenge on the floor. Anybody that can give me any technical reasons why they think Gotham Knight's combat is not good as compared to other games that have implemented similar elements, I'll be happy to take you on an argument. So this audience member of mine cited a YouTuber's video called White Light. I've never heard of this YouTuber before until I saw their Gotham Knights video a few months ago, I think. Now, when I watched this video, I listened to the combat section because a lot of what was said, I would say, yeah, I agree to an extent, depending on the criticism. But what they said about combat was absolute throwaway. In fact, I feel like there are probably 3 gems in regard to their criticism about combat that was kind of dead on and spot on, but could also be tied to other elements that they, in a sense, dismissed in the beginning of their video. But I don't want to go into all of that too deep. Let's just look at the surface level of one of the criticisms that they levied against one of the enemy factions in Gotham Knights at the end game, and that is the League of Assassins. Now, I could tell you, but instead it's better if I just go ahead and show you. So go ahead and watch this.
The League attack in a series of multiple sword strokes and you can't escape or interrupt the flurry. The reason I like fighting the League of Shadows is that it looks fucking awesome, but for half the duration of the fight, you're just dodging their basic attack combo. It's repetitive, it's dull, and it's not normal either. You can't skill your way out with a parry because there is no parry. There is no block. Your moveset is narrower than a bee's dick. You can't always space them out because they track so heavily. There's no choice to make, no option but to evade.
What?
There's no choice to make, no option but to evade.
Watch this. Here we go.
There's no choice to make, no option but to evade. And you could deal with them in numerous ways, including explosive gel, the electric charge, and special combo moves. No such options exist in Gotham Knights.
Time for some payback. Come on, freak, get up! Hang
Don't let him do nothing. Say that, did it? Missed by a mile.
brace yourself.
Now you see from all of what was discussed here, the content creator or the person who played this game and actually made their critique, I don't necessarily think that they got the chance or the opportunity to jump into the in-depth mechanics of the combat. Neither did they actually follow the game in a full context. You see, even within this review, and for better context, this content creator White Light said that in the Arkham games you could actually do some really cool things and so on and so forth, pretty much digging up again that Arkham comparison, even though you can't necessarily compare apples to pineapples in this case. But if we actually were to pay very close attention, even the developers themselves made these systems known to audience members back in May of 2022. The receipts are still here because the internet does not necessarily forget all this stuff. I remember people had been asking about a counter-attack mechanism. In fact, back on that May 26 Q&A that the developers did, somebody asked about a counter-attack mechanism when Red Hood was fighting, because they just shown that, gameplay at the time. And Jeff Eleanor basically replied and said, "We do have a counter, as you spotted, but it's not a quick time event kind of way." He said the combat system has a regular and armored attack system, which means that they cannot be interrupted by normal moves. So what you have to do is you counter them with your piercing abilities, and some of the enemies have a guard block, which you also counter with break abilities. If you look into the system of your, momentum abilities and even some of your different abilities, you will see these little short clips that show you how to use them. You can go into your database and also kind of learn what the developers have put in to clue you into how to properly play the combat. All of what I showed was just a short, in my opinion, what I thought was a small level of detail as to how you can deal with the League of Assassins. You can do some other stuff too, like use the incendiary elements as well, which prevents them from teleporting as well. So you can keep them in the combat as much as you want and continue to trouble them over and over again, and they would not be able to move and you just beat down on them. But this is a matter of what I think, in my opinion, is everybody wanted to hate this game, which is something that this particular content creator actually cited at the beginning of their video, and they said, and the game deserves the hate.
Let's be clear, this game deserved hate.
Basically, that's what it is. So if you think a game deserved hate, at least I think you should do your due diligence in touching the game and playing it extensively so you can, carefully make sure that you don't make mistakes like this in the future. There's a YouTuber that actually 100%s his games before he reviews them. I finally decided that that's the only reviewer I'm going to watch. And, sadly, he doesn't review every game, and sadly cannot, because that's a huge task. Because I think it helps him dive more into the mechanics. And I'm not saying every reviewer needs to 100% their games. Don't get me wrong. I'm just at the point where a lot of the surface level stuff is starting to feel really weird, because a lot of different video games are appealing to different audiences now. And so everyone's just gotta, in a sense, just trust their gut to go with a game that they feel is going to be beneficial for them, or a game that's going to be fun for them. And the sad thing is, a lot of people are taking a lot of what these reviewers have said as gospel, because Gotham Knights was an uncertain game. People didn't really know what they had to expect. So a lot of the loud voices pretty much provided this context, or at least opened up the conversation first. So their conversations really did affect how people saw the game. What we've seen instead is a lot of people saying that, man, I thought this game was going to be a bad game, and then I eventually took the dive and jumped in and played the game just a little bit and realized that it was fun. It's all possible that he may have been referring to maybe something like, you know, a wheel of some kind, or having some gadgets in the game and so on and so forth. But I think this entire gadgetry, you know, infatuation is insane. Like, the amount of work to develop a gadget and gadget menu is, in my opinion, quite ridiculous, because I don't know many RPGs that have something that actually, you know, is like that. And then when you have each one for 4 characters, you just have a game that is overly complex and almost redundant. Now, if you're doing a single player game, you know, you notice that Spider-Man or Aloy or some of these characters, they'll have some kind of a wheel, or Lara Croft, whomever it is that, you know, you're playing. That to me seems to make a whole lot of sense, because you can focus on one character, which I think is the biggest criticism I have for Gotham Knights. They should have just taken this game and chopped it up into all 4 characters and extended different mini games, or, you know, just small type indie level games surrounding them. Short bursts, the games would have sold very well. The audiences would have resonated because they knew what these games were, and that they were not Arkham. They were just a storytelling from these character sides. But I can also see how, you know, maybe your boss has told you to make this one kind of game, and, you know, you just basically had to shove everything in there. So I don't necessarily see where that, you know, gadget wheel comes into place, especially when your gadgets are kind of like your outfits and your weapons that can already do those things. You pretty much have the ability to change and craft and do all of that. So I think within the game, it just kind of already works. I guess that might be what this reviewer is saying, but it's not how I heard it. They said you had no options other than to evade. And I've seen people complain about the evasive, you know, bent or slant anyways of this game for the most part. And yes, there seems to be a huge evasive slant, but it does not leave you without options. That is just not true.